In the Trenches, Episode 2, NFL Week number 2. And how did I do on my picks last week? Not too bad as it turns out. I thought I was going to do a little bit better, but I finished 2-2 with that stupid bonus pick. I'll get to that in a minute. I shouldn't have done that, but I'm going to own it anyways. Should have just stuck with my top 3 picks. But let's go over that. So my favorite pick of that week was Indianapolis over Miami, and that one I nailed. That was by far easily the best pick of the week. Indy wins 33-8. Miami didn't even show up, and I figured that the Colts running game with Jonathan Taylor, their offensive line, would just keep the Miami offense off the field, and the Miami defense just stinks. They're not any good. And that was an easy picking Indianapolis over Miami. My second favorite one was the Rams over Houston, giving up a couple points. That wasn't so easy, but they did cover. They won by 5, so it was definitely a cover there. Nailed that one, 2-0 there. And I figured it would be a low scoring game. It was 14-9. The Rams. I figured it would be a low scoring game because both of these teams have really good defensive lines. But the difference there is that Houston has a really bad offensive line. So I figured that's why the Rams would win and got that one. The third pick, I thought I had this in the bag, and Chicago dominated this game over Minnesota for 3+ quarters. And I thought, I got all three of my top picks, 3-0. This is awesome. And then the fourth quarter came, and I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened to Chicago. Minnesota scored 21 points in the fourth quarter, and won that one. So I lost that pick. That made me 2-1. And then I was stupid enough and cocky enough to throw in a bonus pick, which was by far my worst pick, picking Detroit over Green Bay. Instant regret on that one. It was taking place. It was a divisional game in Green Bay. Detroit, their first game with 2 brand new coordinators, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. It's going to take a while for that to gel. So I should have never gone there. And of course, it turned out to be a disaster for Detroit. Green Bay winning easily that one, and that was a bad pick. So wound up as 2-2, respectable. We're okay. Not as good as I wanted it to be. Should have just stuck with the 3 picks. But there you go. Before I get to my week 2 picks, just a couple of games we'll cover. The Thursday game, Dallas and Philadelphia. That turned out to be a pretty good game. Much better than I thought. Most people thought the Eagles were going to rout the Cowboys, but Dallas might have a better season than what I originally thought. The Kansas City Los Angeles game in Brazil, that turned out to be a really good game. Herbert outdueling Mahomes probably for the first time since they meet each other. That was good, and you kind of you don't want to overreact to week 1, but you kind of wonder whether this will be the year where some other team in that NFC West division is gonna overtake the Chiefs finally. We'll see. The Cincinnati Cleveland, the Bengals were very, very disappointing. I know they won the game, but that was so disappointing. With that high-powered offense against the hapless Cleveland Browns, and they barely squeak out by 1 point. Could have easily lost that game. I don't know what's going on. They always have these such slow starts, but at least it was a win. Talked about that. New England, also a very poor showing on their offense. Lost to the Raiders. Another great game, Pittsburgh at the Jets. That turned out to be a really good game. Right up to the last minute, Pittsburgh pulls it out, and Aaron Rodgers looks like in mid-season form. I guess when you're a veteran like him, you don't have to play any preseason. You just start on week 1 right away, and doing great. That was his revenge game tour against the Jets. Fields also played good for the Jets. They just weren't able to overcome Pittsburgh. So we'll see how if the Jets have a good season. Another disappointing team, the Giants. Oh, that was terrible game for them. They didn't show up at all for this. And Washington didn't even play their A game. They brought their C game. They played a bad game, and they easily beat the Giants. And again, you don't want to overreact to week one, but it's hard not to think that the Giants are not going to be good because their fundamental problem is right in the offensive line, and I don't know how they're going to fix that this season. So watch out for another terrible season from them. Another thing, Denver kind of made that one close. I thought they were easily going to win against Tennessee. They did, but should have been more. San Francisco, Seattle, slogfest, divisional game. It was a defensive game, and 49ers pull that out. A little bit, that was a good win for them in Seattle. Already talked about the dismal Detroit showing, Houston, and of course, game of the week, and it turned out to be all that it advertised. Game of the week. Buffalo pulls out the win, 41-40 against Baltimore. And Baltimore is just, I don't know how they're going to do it, but they have to get over this. They constantly do this thing where they dominate another team, whether it's a good team or a bad team. They dominate them for 3+ quarters, and then somehow they leave this open. They just can't finish off these games. They leave an opening. In this case, the Henry fumble. Henry did great in this game, but the fumble in the fourth quarter, they just left that little bit of opening for Buffalo, and Buffalo took it. Last minute field goal wins that game. It was like, wow, Baltimore's got to stop losing these games like this when they dominate for so long. I already talked about Minnesota, Chicago. I don't know what happened there with the Chicago in the fourth quarter, but all right. So next week's picks is going to be, okay, first thing that jumped out at me for next week was Pittsburgh at home opener against Seattle. They're only giving up 2.5 points. Seattle's traveling to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh riding off the high of last week. Aaron Rodgers, like I said, midseason form. 2.5 points is not a lot. That was the first thing that jumped right out at me. So that's pick number one. The next one was the Rams at Tennessee. Rams giving up 5.5 points. I think they'll make that up easily. Maybe not. Maybe it won't be a rout, but I think they'll win it by a touchdown or so, touchdown or more. Like I said, the Rams have a great defensive line. Tennessee gave up 6 sacks to Denver last week. Now they're going to meet up against this young Rams defensive line. Watch out for that. And I think the Rams offense will more than make up these 5.5 points that they're giving up. I know that it's a road game, but I think they'll do that. And the final pick that jumped out at me was, again, you don't want to overreact to week one. And I try hard not to do that. But the Giants in Dallas's home opener, after they almost pulled out that win, they could have beaten the Eagles in Philly. At home now, their offense looks really good. Their defense, especially on the defensive backs, they look really good. Even without Micah Parsons there, that defense didn't do too bad against what looks to be a hapless New York Giants offense. Again, the Giants looks like they have a really terrible offensive line, and that's not going to be good. And I think Dallas will make up that 5.5 points at home over the Giants. All right, so we'll see how that goes. Looking forward to the second week of the NFL. I hope I do a little bit better. Wound up 2-2 because should have been 2-1, but I had to throw in that bonus pick, which was a terrible pick, and that's the reason why that was my fourth pick, and I knew I should have never done it. So I wound up 2-2, which is okay, but I really wanted it to be better. But okay, looking forward to week 2. I hope you all have a good week watching the NFL, and I'll see you back here next week.